Hey, thanks for tuning in. This is part 4 of a modern neutral entrance built on Planet Coaster 2, and we are trying to keep it under 1K pieces with no true theme set for it, for the entrance itself. You see here I'm starting by putting another little canopy top on here. We're going to be doing probably some security features today and maybe a few other little goodies. We'll see. I know we have a bag check area already, but I want to also put in something that will people walk through and just a quick, metal detector that you go through. Hopefully you don't have like, a metal leg or something, a bionic person, and it beeps and goes off and triggers all the alarms for security. But that's one of the things we'll be putting in today. I also want to try to put like a small table out for the bags and items themselves before they go into the X-ray machine. In here I am going to be just going through the menu and probably picking out some metal pieces here. I think I got some metal support pieces. Also, I grabbed something that looks kind of like a little handrail or something over there from the aqua section. We're going to be using it also for the metal detector that you walk through when you come in. I'm going to grab some lights. I will probably also grab a laser or some kind of other light to put on this thing in case we do find someone that is trying to sneak something illegally through the park. We don't want that. We want a safe park. Last time we put up our security cameras, and I think the front section is pretty well covered. So now we just want to make sure that no one tries to sneak anything into the park. So I grabbed these coaster support pieces. I like to probably use these because they look metal. I think that'll look good, give it a little bit of shine or shimmer to the actual structure that I'm going to build. I'm just going to build a basic frame, probably double it up, and we'll see how big it looks, and then more than likely I'll move it around until we get it to where it needs to be to look like a machine that would do something like that. I'm going to go ahead and put a bunch of junk on top of it. Not a bunch, but a little bit here and there. Also looking at that spot there because I was going to cut a piece out to direct traffic one or the other towards those things, and the squares weren't big enough. I just went ahead and made my own little square over here and cut out the size that I needed, and then deleted the actual path that was there and just copy and pasted the old path that I just made on top of it, and hopefully that'll put a little bit of gap in between there and it won't look like people are walking through the walls. The NPCs on this game have their own little way of going through walls and different structures that you wouldn't think they would be able to. It's not a complaint. It's a video game, and I kind of enjoy those little quirks once in a while. I think it's kind of funny. I don't really build super serious parks where I get upset if NPC walks in a spot where they shouldn't be. I'll try to put barriers up where I can to avoid things like that, but it doesn't really upset me. And I've added a couple of little lights or glowing pieces to this structure here. We're going to make them green because pretty much everybody that comes into park's not going to be carrying anything that they shouldn't be into the park. They've already run their bags and everything through the little scanning machine. So I'll probably make some tables and maybe some little trays so people can put their goodies on there. In here I'm going to put in a little walkway, the little cross colors here to let you know, hey, this is where you're walking. You're probably going to get scanned with lasers, x-rays, and who knows what else to make sure that you're not an alien or whatever coming into the place. All the usual goodies and microwaves that they like to zap you with whenever you get scanned for stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out a bunch of just sci-fi pieces here. I grabbed some wires. I've also just grabbed some other just basic kind of just shape pieces. I'm going to put them all together and kind of make that look a little bit more realistic and not so dull. I don't have a problem with it looking simple, but I wanted to give a little bit more realism to it, make it look a little high-tech or something. So I grabbed some sci-fi pieces. I think there's some kind of a trim piece, and just went to town with that. Put them on the sides. We'll put them on the top. Squared it all in, and just kind of framed in that area that was just square and dead looking. And when we get finished with it, it'll look a little more like something that you'd expect to see instead of just a door frame that you would walk through. And here I'm grabbing one of the advanced movers that go up and down usually, and I'm putting it on a horizontal platform because the horizontals move a little bit too far from what I'm wanting to do. I'm going to put a laser on here and have it move back and forth through the little walkway area to make it look like there's a laser scanning through the door. You can see I'm trying to measure things here to see how far it goes over. I don't want it to cut too far into the other path, but I want it to be hidden. So I'm just kind of doing a little measurements here to make sure things are going to work the way that I want them to work. I also chose kind of like a light pink laser because I figured red or green just felt a little bit too intrusive. We want this to be a happy park that you go into, so it's just a slight light pinkish laser that will scan you instead of the usual green or red that people are accustomed to. Here you see one of those classic mistakes that I made where I took a copy, I made a copy of what we just built, and I moved it over as a copy for the other side to match, but instead of it having on a world view, I had it on a relative view whenever I moved it over, so it was off-centered. But it wasn't a problem. I went ahead and just moved it back in place. I also, if you noticed, I put the lights in a separate group because I do plan to use a sequencer to animate a few things through here. I'd probably like to have a red light flashing every once in a while saying that somebody's gone through, or maybe a yellow light, something different that says this person needs to be pulled over and rechecked, or see if they've got an iron belt buckle that they're wearing or something. I'm also going to add a few little wires to this. It's not like the super clutter detail that I like to do. I'm trying to keep this at a small build, so my clutter detail is not going to be very big, but I will have small little pieces that I put in to still give it a little bit of I'm adding a little bit of wires and some small clutter to this whole apparatus that we built before I decide to go all in on it and add the lasers. I'll probably do the sequencing is going to be one of the last things I do. I'll probably leave that for the last episode because there's not a whole lot that I want to sequence. I probably put some lights on the outside and give them a little bit of fading action or something like that to just kind of bring a little eye catchiness to the pillars and maybe the light structures. And of course the main entrance will probably have some decent lighting to it, but that will be for some further episodes. I went ahead and also took the gates that we used at the beginning here. I did this an episode or so ago, and I'm putting one in the middle of the two metal detectors to kind of lure those people to move in between there. And I also moved back the gate pieces so we can have a little bit more room to walk through there, and they won't feel so cluttered and crammed up. I grabbed my little curb pieces and started putting them around my flower beds, but then partially through it I decided that I didn't like the way that looked, that whole idea. So I went back to my friend Periwinkle, and I just went ahead and just moved him out a little bit and made it look just a little more natural. Instead of having a curb in those areas, I just went with a little bit of grass that just kind of naturally flows over the section. And I grabbed a few pieces, and I'm still thinking to myself, what can I do for this table here? A lot of times I'll think of something and go over there. You've heard this before. I'll go to something and scrap it, go to something else. Speaking of going to something else, we are now moving on to this fountain that I finally got tired of looking at. It's been sitting there for a while. I know these time lapses are around 15-20 minutes long, but cutting them down, there's probably close to 2 hours of footage inside of every 30-minute video. I think whenever I cut them down, I get close to 15 minutes or so from about an hour-long footage. So at 4 times speed, it's a couple hours of work in some of these videos. And I went back to these rocks that I really like. I've used them in quite a few different things. I'm not going to use them for the whole entire piece here, but I do want to give a little bit of height and depth to them. I'll probably add some plants to them to have them not quite stand out. I want them to stand out, but I don't want them to be the focal feature for the actual fountain. And I always like to cover the bottom of the pool to make it look like it's a little more natural. I don't know if I've mentioned this before or not, but I use pools a lot to simulate fountains in the game. The pools don't seem to take up as much. I have a little bit more control. I can color them, I can light them up, I can make different depths to them. You can add a little bit of animation to it with the wave features, different things. I like to be able to color. They're just different things. I feel like just the regular fountains that we have are a little bit limited, being basically round. So these kind of give me the option of making fountains differently. And then most of the time I just cover them up with rocks and stuff so you don't see that they are an actual pool. Then I'm going to go ahead and dig through these menus again and find some things I can clutter up a few areas with. I was also thinking I probably need to get some vents for my AC units so they can have somewhere to move the air. And I started to notice after moving my light around that some of the colors that I have for some of my features are off, so that will be addressed and fixed. And those colors will be addressed in another episode. I may just change the color of the entire feature, the whole entrance. We don't really know yet. And so I'm looking for something that I can use for tables here. I've also looked at these flags. I like these flags. I wish they were kind of a little wavy, but they're not. There's no real animation to them. So I thought I might be able to use those for a little bit of extra pizzazz at the entrance. We will see how that goes. I think they give a little bit too much of a fantasy or, castle vibe, but they could be used for other things if we do it right. We will see how that goes. I also grabbed a fish because I'm going to use a fish for a statue because I feel like it does not have any theming to it whatsoever. We could just use that as a small statue at the fountain at the beginning of the entrance. I love putting me some water lilies in, and usually moss, but I am thinking about my piece count for this, so we'll see how everything goes. Here I am pulling out the pool feature again and cutting out a couple of pools. Like I said, I thought about making this into a water feature, and I just went ahead and decided to do that. So I just cut out a little area here. It looks a little dull right now, but like our other water feature that I cut out, or other pool that I cut out and turned it to a water feature, we will address it and make it look much better than what it really is at the moment. I'm going ahead and cleaning up a little bit of area here before I move on to what I'll work on next, which is going to be digging through these menus and looking for, I'm thinking about these water features and wondering if I should have it be more natural looking like the water feature that I have right now, or should I give it more of a kind of an industrial look, kind of like the buildings and the metal. So I was just digging through, looking at some different things that could be added to it. And while I was doing that, I remembered that I did pull out I guess it's a metal walkway that you can see through. I'm going to use that as my table. It's already red, which kind of fits the red that we have already. It's clear. I think it'd make a great lightweight metal table. We're going to throw some legs on it. And that will almost finish up what we have made up for our security area. There's some small areas that I want to clean up with some trim and add a couple of extra things too. I'd like to put a couple of trays and maybe a t-shirt or a bag or a few things in there to make it look like that it's getting ready to be scanned. like I said, trying to stick to my 1K piece limit without looking at where I'm already at. I have no idea where I'm at. I could already be over my 1K, but I enjoy the thrill of taking on the challenge and not knowing yet until I get to that point. Right now I finally get to get rid of the globe that I put up there. I really didn't care for it. I just, like I said, I just wanted something there as a reference point to give me an idea of almost a height and area value of what I was working on. So I decided to go with this little fish here. I think he's kind of cute. We may animate him. I definitely want to have some water shooting out of his mouth, but we may animate him a little bit later on. I think he'll look good for that water feature. I can't forget our employees, and they need a place to enter into this building back here, so I'm going to go ahead and give them a door. Nothing fancy, just something basic. And after I do that, I'm going to move directly onto these water lilies because I just can't help myself sometimes. I just want to put them out. I made them a little on the smaller side. I didn't want to have gigantic water lilies in the main feature pond. I think the small ones will get across what I'm trying to have it look like. I don't want it to be bare, but I don't want it to be covered up with a lot of stuff. And that'll end our video for part 4. I hope you guys stick around for part 5. The entrance really starts to become alive. Thanks again for taking this Planet Coaster journey with me, and I'll see you next time.